Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here. Yes, finally back with another QMR quick movie review set. Back to another focus on some action films here, although very varied, I'd say. We have The Sum of All Fears, which came out in 2002, of course starring Ben Affleck and Morgan Freeman, along with movies like Code of Silence, one of Chuck Norris's more well-regarded mid-80s vehicles, as well as a movie called Cover Up with Dolph Lundgren, Louis Gossett Jr., and then a pretty somewhat obscure, not really well received Dolph Lundgren flick in the Minion, which I have some surprising things to say about. And then finally No Code of Conduct, with Charlie Sheen, his father, Martin Sheen, and Mark Dacascos.
Hey guys, Bloody Jacob here, meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel.
Hey, I'm Sylvia Saska.
And I'm Jen Saska.
And we're the Saska Sisters. Get in! Get a part of this! Subscribe to the little butt down there! Look.
And starting off with talking about The Sum of All Fears. If you guys have seen some of my reviews of a couple other Ben Affleck movies, by the way, we'll be finally reviewing The Way Back, hopefully within the next week or so. Just kind of been reflecting on it, and there's also a couple other movies I gotta get to as well, but if you guys haven't seen my reviews of some other Ben Affleck movies I've managed to actually do on my channel, Ben Affleck is an all-time favorite actor of mine. He always has been. I've been inspired by his growth from the personal demons he's gone through the past few years, and because of that, I've been going back into his catalog, if you want to say that. Just checking out some movies or rewatching some ones I either haven't seen in a while or haven't seen at all. And Sum of All Fears is one of those. It's one of those slew of Jack Ryan movies we've seen in the past few decades. There's, of course, the Harrison Ford film, there's an Alec Baldwin one, there's that film in the later 2000s with Chris Pine. And, of course, they had a movie like Hunt for Red October as well. So yeah, this is again based off one of the novels by Tom Clancy, and obviously we have the TV series now with John Krasinski. And this is one of the more lukewarm to mixed received of those, but I gotta say, going in, I was expecting to like it a fair bit, and I did. I mean, we don't have Jack Ryan as like this action star or killing military machine necessarily. It's definitely playing on more of like the younger version of him, more of an analyst type, but really resourceful, and he does have a bit of trauma within the military career he has had so far. And I think Ben Affleck does a good job of that, kind of being a little world weary, but yet being maybe a little more optimistic than he is later in life, and actually trying to live his life. So I think Ben Affleck was actually a decent pick for Jack Ryan at that stage in his life, and I think he does a good job with it. And Morgan Freeman, he's always a very reliable actor, but we've all seen him in these like military leader positions in every film, and he's pretty much the same in all of them. Now that's a bad thing, but if you've seen him in one kind of role like that, you've kind of seen him in all. You know what I mean? But he's not bad. Obviously, he is God. Him and Ben Affleck have a nice little rapport with each other, especially in the first half of the film, where you see Morgan Freeman's character sort of taking a keen interest in Jack Ryan's, instincts about things and such. And Jack Ryan, that's a consistent quality. You have even John Krasinski's version. Jack Ryan can't help but kind of speak his mind when when he's really certain he's out on the ball about something, or he has something. And you kind of see that quality there, and Jack Ryan keeps trying to whisper into Morgan Freeman's ear, getting his attention somehow, and it's actually played off kind of well. I was surprised. I laughed out loud a little bit. You also have a little love interest in this, which isn't too bad. Again, it's a younger Jack Ryan here, so you have. Okay, the cast list is out of order here, but I did not dislike that part of the movie. You also have Bruce McGill, who's in a lot of like war, sci-fi type films. You also have obviously this movie is also based on just that kind of paranoia with Russia. There's again not just the Jack Ryan movies, but there are a lot of action or war drama movies based on that sort of scenario, and there still will be, and there probably always will be, given the current state of things. It could have been it's a subgenre in and of itself, really. But yeah, I thought the cast was all actually pretty well picked here. You had James Cromwell as President Fowler, who I actually thought really fit the role too. He gave a really actually consistent performance. For some reason I do not have the guy's name now, because once again the cast list is out of order here. Let's see. No, I'm going to fail here, but basically, let's see, I can get the guy's name, it's bugging me now. But yeah, I did enjoy the movie. It's not an action film per se, it's not like a explosion extravaganza. What you do see is more of like a disaster sort of, again, war drama scenario, verging on thriller, I guess, if you want to say that. There is a fight scene Affleck is in, but it's kind of played more for survival and not just for a fight scene for the sake of it. Let's see. And yes, here I am still trying to get the guy's name. Okay, Sirian Hens. That is his name. He is one of the, Russian leaders, ends up, taking over and being one to communicate with Jack Ryan a little bit. So I thought he was actually really well casted, because obviously part of the movie involves the president of Russia, dying suddenly, then a man whose politics are virtually unknown succeeding him, so there's a lot of uncertainty about that. But Sirian Hens plays that character, and I actually liked how Ben Affleck tries to approach him and what actually develops between the two. I thought was one of the more interesting parts of the movie. Well, even though you could say it's maybe a bit on the optimistic side of things, but I thought it did a good job of bridging the kind of the balance between paranoia being needed and what was actually, what actually should be appropriate with that sort of thing. Especially given the time period and such. I thought they approached it realistically, but yeah, it didn't go too far. So I enjoyed Sum of All Fears. I mean, sure, you could have used more, explosions or something like that. But yeah, it's a nice building sense of danger and a bit of intensity that I thought worked pretty well to the type of movie it was. Again, I enjoyed Ben Affleck. He's obviously become a much better actor these days, but I thought he was likable in this, and I thought he was easy enough to root for. So if I had to rate Sum of All Fears, I'd give it within like a 82-85%, BB minus, somewhere in there. And then moving right along, changing genres in a big way, is Code of Silence, starring Chuck Norris, which came out in 1985. And I've reviewed a lot of Chuck Norris films over the past few months, a lot of them being, his earlier roles in the very late 70s and early 80s. Code of Silence is one I've been meaning to get to for a while, because it definitely is more like a serious, slightly grounded action thriller. I mean, don't get me wrong, he still has his martial arts in it, but it's meant to be a more kind of serious crime action, flick type of thing. It's one that I actually garnered Chuck Norris more praise at the time for his acting performance. And he's very good here. He deals obviously with, what's common in these types of films, corruption in the police force, and he's caught in the middle of a gang war. So that's to figure out how it's all connected. And that's basically the the premise there. We have Henry Silva here as the main baddie, you could say. Genre fans will also recognize him from Above the Law, Steven Seagal. I will say I actually liked Henry Silva's performance more in that film, but he plays the same type of character in this. So he's a good fit for any movie within this genre. And also there's this kind of, not really silly, but there's like this campier thing about this automated machine coming into the police force and being able to assist them with targeting and almost like a SWAT or riot type of situation. So I have Chuck Norris utilizing that at one point in a pretty big finale, really. And like I said, it is a bit more concerned with, it does try to be a bit smarter with how it goes about, the proceedings of things, but don't get me wrong, it does deliver in the finale with a pretty fast-paced shootout and kind of chaos going all over the place. So I think it should satisfy fans looking for that as well. It's not one of my favorite Chuck Norris films, but it's one I have to give credit to. It was pretty good. I'd probably give it like an 83, 80%, somewhere in there. I wouldn't give it any lower than a B- though. It was very good. It's just not one I personally enjoyed the absolute most, but credit where credit is due. It's definitely, undeniably, I think, one of Chuck's more admirable flicks for that time in his career. And there's also a good subplot again about corruption in the police force. There's this younger kid that was accidentally shot. So unfortunately that's even more relevant these days of incidents like that occurring. And you do get to admire, you always admire Chuck Norris's characters. He's very rarely morally ambiguous or anything, but how he goes about that I thought was pretty enjoyable too. It creates some a layer of realistic unease, I think, within the premise. So yeah, I actually enjoyed Code of Silence, believe it or not. Shocker, right? And then we're going to be getting to, when we go to Dolph Lundgren here, and that is with Cover Up, which came out in 1991. And also starred Louis Gossett Jr., who also played a role in his '89 Punisher film, so you get to see them on screen together again. I bought it on eBay for about $5. I absolutely love Dolph Lundgren. It's him and Van Damme are my all-time favorite martial artists, followed by guys like Chuck Norris and Mark Dacascos, and I could go on. I could make a whole video on that, but Dolph Lundgren's almost gone over for Van Damme for me. I could pretty much do a toss-up at this point. And what I mean by that is I'll watch him in anything. So I seen this on eBay for $5. It's one that's a little more under the radar for Dolph. It's not brought up a lot. And it's another one that's not really just a straight-up action movie. It's more of like, I guess you want to say, investigation, kind of thriller, political thriller type thing. Again, playing on some paranoia and such. Or if IMDb says it, it's a tough ex-US Marine journalist who battles against time to save the lives of thousands of innocent people after uncovering a complex terrorist plot. But yeah, battles is probably an exaggeration. There's not like a ton of action every few minutes or anything, but there's a solid fight scene within the middle-ish quarter of the movie. And the finale actually kind of builds up the suspense and kind of the time crunch of it all that I particularly enjoyed. And it ends on somewhat of an unconventional note that may frustrate some, but I actually thought it was a bold and, resonant choice, as much as it could be for the movie. Dolph Lundgren is good here. It was different seeing him just play a journalist, although again, of course, his character has a Marine background to explain why he can still handle himself. But, just seeing him not be a cop or like a hard-hitting tough guy, on the base of it was different. And though Scott Jr. is good, he's not in a shit ton necessarily, but it's still good to see them bounce back and forth on each other, kind of being contrasting, but then sort of converging on the same path. It's not too bad. It's not one of Dolph's most memorable flicks, but I think it was one that was fine enough, and there's definitely not a whole lot of issues with it, but I won't say it also. I also wouldn't say it does a ton necessarily to stick in your mind as much as maybe you'd want. I think it's worth it. I don't think it's, I don't think $5 is really a lot to ask for this. I'm fine with having it in my collection. I got about what I was expecting, and there is a decent fight within the apartment house I quite enjoyed, and again, the ending was pretty good. So, yeah, and also not a bad love interest angle either. I thought that was decent enough, and it does try to be clever with the way it unravels things too. I could tell some effort was actually put into it, although it's still not the hardest to guess thing in the world, but you can tell they tried a bit. And then moving right along, we're going to be talking about another Dolph Lundgren flick, a pretty different one from that, and that is The Minion, which came out in 1998, and of course starred Dolph Lundgren, along with Francosi Robertson. I probably butchered her name. This movie is really, really something. I'll read the IMDb summary here. New York, Christmas Eve, 1999. At the dawn of the new millennium, a subway construction crew unearths an 800-year-old Celtic skeleton and a mysterious key. Archaeologist Karen Goodleafs is called to determine the meaning of the discovery. News of the discovery reaches a Middle East monastery, where the warrior monks known as the Knights Templar, an ancient sect entrusted with protecting holy relics, choose their best pupil, Lucas, to face a diabolical threat. As Lucas races to New York, an evil minion seizes Karen and uses its body. Like a parasite and host, Lucas drives just in time to rescue Karen and dispatch the minion. The minion takes hold of another host, revealing that it is immortal. It cuts a path of destruction through the city, decimating a parking garage and leaving a trail of death. Karen realizes the minion can't be killed, but only delayed from finding a new host. Okay, that's like more detail about the minion itself and not really the plot, but it basically got it there. And again, just like those kind of Russian, Cold War paranoia type films, this film could fit into a genre of its own as well. With when it got near 2000, end of the world, type thing. You had Arnold Schwarzenegger on days. You had a bunch of stars using movies like this. And kind of, it was basically a marketing thing at this rate. The Minion was one I've hesitated on for a little bit, not because I don't enjoy Dolph Lundgren, but, it's like I thought I should steer away from it for a little bit, because even for movies Dolph Lundgren's been a part of, this one is pretty low rated, but I got to say, I was pleasantly surprised by this. I enjoyed it a fair bit more than actually a handful of Dolph Lundgren films, actually, and I like them all to some extent, of course, but of course this one dips into the horror genre a tad bit. You have some supernatural ongoings, obviously with this demon that's come out. You have Dolph using that glove there, which is kind of cool in the first couple acts. But basically, the movie is a bit of a slow burn, and I think some people will probably be a bit impatient with it, but by the end of it, it gets pretty fucking crazy. I mean, the last half of it, especially the last quarter, it seems like things just get more and more insane, and seems like every person this thing possesses, they end up acting more over the top and just sort of off the wall and crazed and such, so it actually becomes a bit fun. And there's actually a pretty sweet final fight scene between Dolph and the main guy that the demon ends up possessing, which I don't want to spoil. But there's a good sort of spear, sword type fight thing that I actually quite liked. It wasn't the worst shot thing in the world. You even get some decent shots of Dolph Lundgren doing it himself. I could see some more kicks from him than in other movies, so I like that. And it actually gets pretty violent. People get shot up quite a bit. which I did not mind. And you do get a sense of urgency with them trying to keep this this door open, with the key that this demon is using. I also didn't mind the main actress alongside Dolph Lundgren in it either. I'm not going to try and butcher her name again, but I thought she actually gave a capable performance too that I was a little bit surprised by. There have definitely been more bland co-stars. So yeah, I know this one isn't very favorable among most people, but I gotta say I could actually see myself putting this in my top 10 Dolph Lundgren films. I don't mind watching this again. I actually enjoyed it a good chunk more than I expected. I'm not saying there weren't any issues with it. A couple of the performances are a bit wooden. Again, that first act of it is a bit slow, but I actually enjoyed how it was plotted out, really. I'm not seeing a whole lot wrong with it from my perspective. I mean, I'm trying to nitpick, but I also enjoyed the sets. I thought they were a little bit unique for a Dolph Lundgren movie. There is actually some detail put into them, just because of the premise they had to a little bit, and they went for it. So yeah, if I had to rate this one, I honestly give it anywhere between like a 79 or like a 85%, honestly. I did like it quite a bit myself. And by the way, I didn't rate Cover Up. I'd put that at about a 77, CC plus. But yeah, I actually enjoyed the Minion quite a bit more. I'm going to get kind of different strokes for different folks, if you want to put it that way. But yeah, Minion is the one that's going to come up a lot, but it's one that I don't think should be ignored. And then the last movie we'll be discussing for this video, a bit anyway, it will be No Code of Conduct, starring Charlie Sheen, Martin Sheen, and Mark Dacascos. No Code of Conduct came out that same year in 1998. Cop, his ex-partner, and his father uncover a plot by city elders to smuggle drugs from Mexico into Phoenix, Arizona. And yes, this movie was directed by Bret Michaels, lead singer of Poison. He also wrote the story, and he has sort of a brief role in it near the beginning of the film. So yeah, Bret Michaels. This is actually a pretty competently made movie, speaking of. It's well shot, it plays out in a pretty well planned way given the type of movie it is. It doesn't feel totally unique. Just these types of movies are a bit of a dime a dozen, but if you like the genre, you're not going to complain about that as much. But I should still mention it. It does feel a bit familiar. And I'm a fan of Charlie Sheen, actually, despite all those issues about him in his personal life. Objectively and on screen, I always found him to be a pretty likable actor. And of course, Martin Sheen, has always been a very good actor. From something like this to his more acclaimed work to even his role in Silver Linings Playbook. I think he's good here. It's good to see father and son in a movie together. And Mark Dacascos, he sort of plays Charlie Sheen's partner, one of his friends outside the force too. Mark Dacascos is one of the greatest on-screen martial artists ever, and I can't help but feel like he was a little underutilized in this. I know they're supposed to be regular cops, so they don't have Mark Dacascos go too crazy with anything he actually does. But I still think, you cast Dacascos, you gotta kind of have him do something a little bit, like, woo! But no, it's kind of more pushing and just punching, and, it's fine. It's mostly based on shootouts, and the shootouts are actually pretty good in this, I do gotta say. And, again, it's pretty contemptly. I probably butchered that again, but I can't speak right now, so I'm going to say it was actually a pretty well laid out movie, well structured film. I wasn't overly enthused about it, but I think it's actually a more solid flick than what you might realize going in, and you think, oh, Bret Michaels directs a movie starring Charlie Sheen, it's probably a bomb, but I thought it was actually pretty good. And you even have Paul Gleason as well. Yeah, and the actress that played Charlie Sheen's wife in it, I actually enjoyed too. I thought we could have seen even more of her. But her and Martin Sheen actually share a really nice scene about, how to deal with his son and if she's debating on leaving him or not because of how just focused he is on his work. So yeah, it's a pretty good flick. I'd give it about an 80. I'll give it kind of right in the middle there, a B minus. You know, bridging on C plus, but I thought it was pretty good. It's not one I'm sure I'll rewatch for a while, but so yeah. Out of all these, probably the best, obviously the best made movie is The Sum of All Fears. You know, budget is probably a factor there. And then, you know, Code of Silence was, you know, probably after that. Then I'm not really sure after that. But as far as the movie I had the most fun with, it was honestly probably the Minion by the end of it. I watched it late at night too, so that probably helped a bit. But the Minion was the one I had the most fun with. But again, I guess a lot about each of these. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.